I never thought I'd be the guy telling this story. I used to think affairs were something that happened to people who ignored the signs, or people who were already miserable and checked out. But I wasn't. At least, I didn't think I was. I was all in. Always had been. My name's Daniel. I'm 38 now, but this started when I was 35, back when I still thought I had it all: a stable job, a modest house in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, and a wife I loved more than I'd ever loved anyone in my life. Her name is Melissa. She's a nurse. Worked long hours, sometimes overnight shifts, sometimes double shifts. She had this calm energy about her, could walk into chaos and somehow make it all feel okay. I loved that about her. Still kind of do, in a twisted way. We'd been married 7 years when it happened. 7 years of building a life, slowly and surely. We didn't have kids, not by choice really, just hadn't happened yet. And we figured we had time. Maybe that was part of it. Maybe the quiet crept in and stayed too long. I noticed changes around year 6. Nothing big, just little things. Melissa got more private with her phone. Started sleeping with it under her pillow, something she never used to do. I'd ask who she was texting, and she'd say just Jen, or work group chat. I didn't think much of it. I trusted her. She was always the honest one between us, the solid one. But trust has this nasty habit of making you overlook your own instincts. The night it all changed was a Wednesday. Nothing special about it. I got home from work a little early. My last client canceled, so I beat traffic and walked in around 5:15. Melissa was on the couch, feet tucked under a blanket, scrolling her phone. I kissed her on the cheek. She smiled, distracted. Dinner was quiet. She was tired, she said. I believed her. Nurses work hard. I didn't want to be one more thing she had to manage. Afterward, I went to do the dishes while she watched something on Netflix. Halfway through scrubbing a pan, I remembered I'd left my phone charger in the living room, so I dried my hands and walked back in. That's when I saw it. Her phone lit up on the cushion beside her. She didn't notice. I guess she was in the kitchen grabbing something. I swear, I wasn't snooping. But the preview popped up, and it was just there. Last night was perfect. I can still feel your lips on my neck. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. The name on the screen? Mark W. Mark was her coworker. I'd met him once at a hospital fundraiser. Tall guy, clean cut, always smiling. I remembered shaking his hand and thinking, he's friendly. He's safe. When she got back into the room, I was still staring at the phone. Who's Mark? I asked. My voice was quiet. Too quiet. She looked up, blinked. What? She said. I held up the phone. This just popped up. She froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. That hesitation was all I needed. In that one breath, I knew. He's just a friend, she said, almost immediately. We joke around. It's not what you think. But her voice shook. She couldn't even meet my eyes. And I wanted so badly to believe her. I really did. I didn't want to be the man whose wife looked elsewhere. I didn't want to admit that everything I'd built my life around might be a lie. So I did what so many people do when the truth comes knocking. I tried to shut the door. I told her I believed her. I nodded. I said, okay. But that night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to her breathing, trying to memorize it. Trying to remember the last time she touched me without being distracted. Trying to remember when we stopped being us and started being this. The next morning, I waited until she was in the shower. I knew the code to her phone. It was our anniversary date. I opened it. And what I found, it broke me. Messages. Dozens of them. Going back months. I read how he called her, babe. How she told him she missed him when she was home with me. I saw the photos she sent. Nothing explicit, but intimate. Too intimate. I read how she told him she felt alive with him. How she said I didn't see her anymore. That I was always so safe, so boring. That word. Boring. That's what gutted me. Because I'd spent my whole life trying to be the opposite of the chaos she came from. Her dad was an addict. Her mom was in and out of shelters. I thought being her stability was the best thing I could be. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. I was numb. So I went to work. Drove there in a fog. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, engine running, just staring at the wheel. I remember calling my best friend, Rob. Told him everything. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Dan, I love you, man. But you don't come back from this. He was right. I just didn't know it yet. That weekend, I asked her to go for a drive. Just the two of us. We drove out to this lake about an hour outside the city, a place we used to go when we were dating. I didn't say anything for the first half hour. She kept making small talk. I let her. I waited until we parked by the water. Then I asked her straight up, "Are you in love with him?" She looked out the window. Her fingers twisted in her lap. Then she said, "I don't know." That was my answer. Because if you don't know whether you love your husband or the man you're cheating with, you've already chosen. I drove us home in silence. She cried a little. I didn't. My tears had already dried up. All I had left was the slow collapse inside my chest. That night, I packed a bag and slept at Rob's. Told her I needed space. She said she understood. She didn't fight for me. That's what stuck. Not the cheating, not even the lies. It was the apathy. She didn't chase after me. Didn't try to stop me. Didn't scream or beg or make some grand romantic apology. She just watched me go. And that's how I knew I was already gone. I didn't go back home for over a week. Stayed at Rob's place. Slept on his lumpy guest mattress, ate cold pizza, drank too many beers, and tried to pretend like my world hadn't just cracked open at the seams. Funny how quickly silence becomes normal. Melissa barely texted. A couple check-ins. Let me know if you're okay. I still love you. Nothing desperate. Nothing raw. I think that hurt more than anything. She treated it like I'd gone out for a long drive and would eventually come back, like I always had before when we argued. But this wasn't an argument. This was something you don't bounce back from. This was betrayal in the shape of 1,000 typed words and 2 people who thought I wouldn't find out. I spent those days at Rob's scrolling through old photos, us on vacation in Asheville, laughing over burnt marshmallows. Her in that blue sundress on our 2nd anniversary. Me grinning like a fool, because back then, she looked at me like I was the answer to every question she'd ever had. Now I was just the placeholder she outgrew. When I finally went back to the house, it felt like entering a crime scene. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The air was heavier. The couch remembered things. The bed had secrets. She was waiting for me in the kitchen. Hair tied back, no makeup. That used to be my favorite version of her. Real. Comfortable. Now it felt like a mask. "Hey," she said. Soft. I didn't say it back. She gestured to the table. "Can we talk?" So we did. Or rather, she did. She talked about feeling unseen, feeling trapped. Said it wasn't about him, that it never really was. That he just made her feel alive again. I listened. I didn't interrupt. Not once. When she finally stopped talking, I just nodded. "You could have told me." I didn't know how, she whispered. "You found a way to tell him," I said. That landed. She flinched. It wasn't meant to be cruel. It was just true. I told her I couldn't keep living in a house that felt like a stranger's. That I couldn't keep pretending the love hadn't left the building a long time ago. She cried. She begged me to try therapy. Said we owed it to our vows. To the years we spent building this life. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, arms folded, and said something I didn't know I believed until the words came out of my mouth. "You had a choice. You chose him. Now I'm choosing me." And I stood up. For the next few weeks, we lived in the same house but in different worlds. I stayed in the guest room. Started looking at apartments. Made calls to attorneys. It felt like drowning in slow motion. Every night, I'd lie there staring at the ceiling wondering how long it had been broken before I noticed. Wondering if she ever really loved me, or if I was just the safest place she'd ever known. She stopped seeing Mark, so she said. Told me they'd cut it off. But that wasn't the point anymore. It wasn't about him. It was about her. I couldn't unsee what I saw. I couldn't unfeel what I felt. Trust is a fragile thing. Once it's cracked, it never reflects light the same way. A few months later, I signed a lease on a small one-bedroom place across town. Nothing fancy. Clean walls, a worn-out couch, the smell of fresh paint and freedom. I took my books, my clothes, my dog, and my peace. The day I moved out, Melissa stood on the porch, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. I loaded the last box into my car and turned to face her. "You sure this is what you want?" she asked. I almost laughed. "No, but it's what I need." She nodded. Tears welled up. I didn't comfort her. That wasn't my job anymore. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said. "You were what I was looking for," she said. I shook my head. "Then you should have acted like it." I got in the car. Drove away. And that was it. No dramatic goodbye. No slammed doors. Just quiet. In the months that followed, I started building a life from the ground up. I got a promotion at work. Started hitting the gym again. Met new people, nothing romantic. Just people who didn't know me as Melissa's husband. I went to therapy. Not to figure her out, but to figure me out. To understand how I ignored the signs, how I buried my needs for so long, how I lost myself in someone else's story. And I started writing again. Journals, mostly. Long, messy pages about pain and growth and forgiveness. I haven't seen Melissa in over a year now. She texted once. Something short. Hope you're well. I didn't respond. Because I am well. And she doesn't get to know that. She said he was just a friend. That was the first lie. But the real betrayal wasn't the kiss, or the messages, or even the man. The real betrayal was that she stopped choosing me long before I stopped choosing her. And now, I've learned to choose myself. Every day.